There's a strange calm that lives inside certain people. While the world screams, they stay silent. While others panic, they breathe. They don't raise their voice. They don't flinch when criticized, and they don't chase after approval like it's oxygen. These are not superhumans. They're not born with thicker skin. They've simply mastered something the rest of us were never taught: the art of being emotionally untouchable. Now think about this. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Instantly, your pulse spikes. Rage takes over before logic gets a chance to speak. A coworker says something subtly insulting. Suddenly, your mood shifts. You replay it in your head, analyzing every word. A stranger gives you a strange look, and just like that, insecurity creeps in. This is how most people live, constantly reacting, constantly disturbed, constantly handing over their peace to things that don't deserve it. But what if you didn't have to live that way? What if you could reach a state where nothing outside of you could steal your calm? No insult, no betrayal, no chaos. Carl Jung said it best. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. In other words, the world isn't disturbing you, it's revealing you. If someone calls you a fool and it hurts, it's not because of their words, it's because part of you fears they might be right. If someone ignores you and it stings, that's not about them. That's about your need to be seen. And this is the truth nobody wants to hear. You're not reacting to the world, you're reacting to yourself. Your triggers, your buttons, your emotional outbursts, they all come from within. The world just knows how to press play. This is what the Stoics knew long before modern psychology confirmed it. They called it mastery of the inner citadel. The idea that you are a fortress and the only way anything can hurt you is if you leave the gate open. Modern science calls it cognitive reactivity. The idea that your brain, left unchecked, will build habits of emotional overreaction until it becomes your personality. But here's the power. You can rewire that. You can train yourself to be calm in the fire, to be silent when provoked, to see the insult, the chaos, the unfairness, and still not lose yourself. Because in the end, control is not about dominating the world. Control is realizing the only thing you ever needed to master was yourself. Most people live in reaction mode without realizing it. They wake up and immediately check their phones, letting the outside world dictate their first thoughts. They scroll through news, messages, and headlines that trigger anxiety before they've even taken a breath. Their emotions rise and fall depending on what others say, do, or think. But here's what no one tells you. Every emotional reaction is a mirror, a reflection of what you haven't faced within yourself. If someone disrespects you and it burns, it's because you haven't yet fully accepted your own worth. If rejection destroys you, it's because you've tied your value to being chosen. If uncertainty paralyzes you, it's because deep down, you still believe safety can be found in control. None of this is weakness, it's just unconsciousness. Carl Jung called this the shadow, the parts of yourself you've buried, denied, or refused to look at. Your insecurities, your fears. The beliefs you inherited but never questioned. And they don't just disappear, they run your life from the background. So when someone says something that cuts deep, it's not about them. They didn't insert pain into you, they just lit the match. The fire was already there. And this is where transformation begins. Not by avoiding conflict, but by welcoming it as feedback. Not by silencing triggers, but by studying them like a map back to your unresolved wounds. Imagine it like this. You're standing in front of a mirror, but instead of your face, you see every emotional reaction reflected back at you. Anger, jealousy, insecurity, fear. Not to shame you, but to reveal where you're still not free. The Stoics believe that life constantly tests us, not to punish, but to train. Every person who irritates you, every delay that frustrates you, every betrayal that stings, it's all showing you where your peace is still dependent on something outside yourself. The question isn't, why did this happen to me? The real question is, what is this revealing about me? When you begin to ask that, you stop blaming. You stop outsourcing your power, and you begin the real work, the only work that matters, mastering the one person you'll never escape, yourself. Everyone wants to feel in control of their time, their relationships, their future. We plan everything down to the minute. We obsess over outcomes. We try to manage people's perceptions. And when things don't go our way, we suffer. Someone disrespects you, you feel personally attacked. A relationship ends, you spiral. A plan fails, you take it as a sign that life is unfair. But here's the truth the Stoics understood long before modern psychology. Control is an illusion. You cannot control what people think of you. You cannot control whether life will be fair. You cannot even control what happens 5 minutes from now. The only thing you can control is how you see it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's not just philosophy, that's freedom. Because when your sense of peace depends on things you can't control, you will always be anxious. But when your peace comes from within, from how you perceive, how you interpret, how you respond, no one can take it from you. Two people can experience the same event, a job loss, a breakup, a betrayal. One falls apart, the other transforms. Why? Not because of the event, but because of the story they tell themselves about it. The Stoics knew that life was not meant to obey you. It was meant to shape you. And suffering often comes not from events themselves, but from the resistance you have to how things are. The more you cling to how you think things should be, the more pain you invite. But when you let go, when you release your grip on expectations, on outcomes, on needing people to act a certain way, something incredible happens. You stop reacting, you start observing, and slowly the world loses its power over you. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop depending. You stop depending on approval to feel worthy. You stop depending on control to feel safe. You stop depending on the future to feel at peace. And in that space, that quiet, powerful space between what happens and how you respond, you become untouchable. Most people see emotional triggers as problems. They try to avoid them, suppress them, or blame others for them. If someone makes them feel insecure, they label that person toxic. If a situation exposes their fear, they try to escape it. And if life doesn't go according to plan, they take it personally, as if the universe is out to get them. But what if you saw every emotional reaction not as a curse, but as a clue that points to something within you that's still unhealed, still unresolved, still tied to an old story that no longer serves you? When you feel anger rise, pause. What's underneath it? Is it fear? Is it a sense of being unseen or disrespected? When you feel jealousy, what does it reveal about your unmet desires or sense of lack? Carl Jung believed that the unconscious controls your life until you make it conscious. And emotional triggers are how the unconscious tries to speak to you. You can't heal what you refuse to face, and you can't grow if you keep silencing the very signals meant to guide you. Imagine every trigger as a spotlight, not on the world, but on you. It shows you where you're still holding on, where you've built your identity on shaky ground, where your peace is still conditional. You feel offended because you believe you must be respected at all times. You feel anxious because you think everything must go your way. You feel envious because you've measured your worth by what others have. The Stoics didn't run from these feelings. They used them. Marcus Aurelius reflected on his thoughts daily, not to shame himself, but to understand himself. Seneca advised preparation for discomfort, not to become hardened, but to become free. They knew that emotional mastery isn't about being unaffected, it's about being aware. Awareness gives you choice, and choice gives you freedom. Without awareness, you're just reacting, stuck in the same loops, repeating the same pain, wondering why nothing ever changes. But once you become aware, truly aware of your own inner patterns, you gain something most people never touch in their entire lives: agency, the ability to choose your response, to pause before reacting, to turn pain into insight, to use discomfort as a doorway, not a dead end. So the next time you're triggered, don't push it away. Study it, sit with it, ask it what it's trying to show you, because the thing you most want to avoid, that feeling, that discomfort, that sting, might just be the key to your freedom. We tend to believe that strength comes from dominance, from controlling outcomes, people, situations. But true strength isn't loud. It doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't try to shape the world by force. Real strength is presence, calm, unshakable awareness that doesn't flinch in the face of uncertainty. That's why the Stoics spoke often of ataraxia, a state of serene calmness, untouched by external events. Not numbness, not apathy, but the quiet strength of someone who has nothing left to fear within themselves. Because here's the paradox. The more you try to control life, the more it controls you. If you need others to respect you, you've already given them power over you. If you require success to feel worthy, you've made your value conditional. If you demand certainty before you act, you've surrendered your freedom to act. When you need things to go a certain way, you become a hostage to the outcome. But when you stop needing, when you can sit in the unknown without panic, when you can be misunderstood and stay rooted, when you can lose and not be broken, that's when you become truly untouchable. Modern psychology supports this. Neuroscience has shown that the need for control creates cognitive rigidity, a state where your brain resists adaptation. But when you let go of control, your mind becomes more flexible, more creative, more resilient. This is why those who appear the strongest often feel the weakest inside, because they're exhausted, constantly trying to make everything fit a story in their head. But when you let go, truly let go, something shifts. You don't need people to act differently. You don't need the past to change. You don't need the future to arrive a certain way. You simply observe, respond, adapt, and stay aligned with your values. That's the essence of Stoic power. Not the power to force life to your will, but the power to remain unmoved when life refuses to obey. And here's what's beautiful about that. When you stop chasing outcomes, you start moving with intention. When you stop fearing judgment, you start acting from truth. When you stop demanding control, you start gaining real influence over your mind, your choices, and your peace. The world doesn't need more people who can shout louder, push harder, or control more. It needs more people who can stand still in the fire and not burn. There's something powerful that happens when a person stops being emotionally available to chaos. Not cold, not indifferent, but grounded. Like a tree rooted so deeply that even the fiercest wind cannot move it. That's the kind of presence people feel and respect, even if they can't explain why. You've seen it before. That one person in the room who doesn't rush to speak, who doesn't flinch when challenged, who listens more than they react. It's not passivity, it's control, quiet control, internal command. That's what it means to be untouchable. And it doesn't come from faking it. It comes from doing the deep inner work, from facing the parts of yourself that you've spent years avoiding, from breaking the addiction to reacting. Because reactivity is just that, an addiction, an unconscious loop, a neural pathway reinforced over time. The good news? You can rewire it. Neuroscience shows that through deliberate practices like mindfulness, cognitive reframing, and emotional exposure, the brain can be reshaped. Reactivity can be replaced with awareness, impulse with reflection, fear with clarity. But it doesn't happen by accident. It happens by training. When someone insults you, pause. Observe the emotion rise. Watch it without judgment. Let it pass without clinging to it. When fear creeps in, breathe. Don't run from it. Sit with it. Understand what it's really trying to protect. When uncertainty rattles your nerves, lean into it. Trust that not knowing is not the same as danger. Every moment is an opportunity to respond differently. And with each small choice, not to react, not to collapse, not to outsource your peace, you are building a new identity. Not one based on performance or control, but on presence. This is what makes someone magnetic. Not what they say, not what they own, but the energy they carry. The person who cannot be provoked radiates power. The person who doesn't chase becomes the one others gravitate toward. The person who's not afraid to be misunderstood is finally free. That's the irony. When you stop needing the world to validate your value, the world begins to notice it. When you stop proving yourself, people start paying attention. And when you stop reacting, the world starts responding. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You don't have to fight to be free. You just have to master the space between stimulus and response. That space is where your life is shaped, and only you can decide what lives there. Most people live as storms, chaotic, reactive, unpredictable. But you weren't meant to be the storm. You were meant to be the sky, vast, steady, unshaken. The storm comes and goes. Anger, insecurity, jealousy, fear, but the sky remains. That's what a truly untouchable mind becomes. Not emotionless, but anchored. Not passive, but present. A presence so deep that nothing on the surface can disturb it. And here's the truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Nothing needs to change for you to be at peace. Not your past, not your job, not your relationships, only your perception. Because the moment you stop giving your power away to opinions, to outcomes, to fears, you return to yourself. And that's where real power lives. Power that doesn't shout, power that doesn't chase, power that simply is. The Stoics didn't promise a life without pain. They promised a life where pain doesn't own you, where setbacks become lessons, where betrayal becomes clarity, where chaos becomes training. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what strength is this trying to awaken in me? Because every insult that once pierced you is now just noise. Every trigger that once shattered you is now just a signal. Every fear that once froze you is now just a doorway. You've walked through it all, not with bravado, but with quiet strength. And now, you're no longer moved by what used to control you. You don't need the world to bend. You don't need others to understand. You don't need to explain your calm to a world addicted to noise. You simply live it. You embody it. You carry it, silently, powerfully, like a mountain that doesn't need to speak to be respected. This is the legacy of the untouchable mind. Not perfection, but presence. Not control over the world, but command over yourself. And in that space, that stillness, you'll find something you've been searching for all along. Not the power to conquer others, but the peace that comes from no longer needing to.